The HOA president actually called 911 because I dared to leave her precious little kingdom, but she had no idea my son was about to show up in uniform. Let me paint you a picture that'll make your blood boil. I'm just standing there on my own driveway, coffee still steaming in my hand, thinking it's going to be a quiet Tuesday morning, when out of nowhere the low grumble of diesel engines interrupts the calm. Two squad cars rolling up slow, like I'm some most wanted fugitive instead of a widowed union electrician who keeps his yard neater than half the block. And there's Karen Whitfield, HOA president, suburban tyrant, jumping up and down in her designer flats, French manicure flashing as she points at me for the cops. Arrest him. He's destroying our community. His illegal fence is a menace. Her voice hitting that pitch where you feel it in your molars. I look at the officer, tall, built like a linebacker, hand on his radio, and Karen's too busy running her victim routine to even notice him smile when he sees me. She's flapping paperwork like she's the queen of jurisprudence, waving violation notices at the sky, talking about aesthetic harmony and community standards. And then Officer Torres turns around. My son, Cameron, my stubborn, big-hearted detective son. Hi, Dad. What seems to be the problem here? Karen's face goes so white you'd think she'd seen a ghost. You know, sometimes I ask myself how the hell I wound up in the middle of a suburban drama that makes reality TV look tame. My name's Marcus Torres, and up until a year ago I thought I had it made. 30 years as a union spark chaser, 3 grown kids who actually call their old man on Sundays, a wife whose laughter still echoes in these walls long after cancer took her too soon. I bought this little ranch in Willowbrook Estates because Sarah wanted a place where the grandkids could ride their bikes, and you didn't have to worry about potholes swallowing them up. Now it's just me and Buddy, our golden retriever, rattling around the house that still smells like Sarah's lavender soap, me stubbornly refusing to sell up even when the loneliness hits hardest. The HOA seemed harmless at first, $1,200 a year for trimmed hedges, a playground that nobody uses, some pointless clubhouse where Karen holds court like she's running the country. The rules were basic. Mow your lawn, don't paint your house purple, no broken down cars on cinder blocks. Fair enough. But then Karen got bored, or maybe just ran out of self-improvement projects, and decided her true calling was enforcing order with all the subtlety of a tornado in a glass shop. At first, it was little things, measuring grass with a ruler, snapping photos if your garbage can was a foot out of line, scrawling notes about seasonal decor left up a day too long. She had her little army of violation notices printed and ready like she was expecting the Red Army to show up disguised as lawn gnomes. But it got personal real quick after I put up a 4-foot cedar fence. Nothing fancy, just something to keep Buddy safe. Fully within HOA rules, by the book, permits signed and stamped. Next morning, Karen's pacing my sidewalk, heels clicking, her perfume clashing with the fresh cedar, tape measure snapping out with a flick. This fence violates the Harmony Clause, she announced like it was the Gettysburg Address. I pointed to Section 4.2. Fences under 4 feet need no approval, right there in black and white. Karen's eyes narrowed. The rules, she said, are subject to interpretation by the board. Meaning her. That was the beginning of her favorite threat, 72 hours or a $500 daily fine. Didn't matter how many receipts, city inspector certificates, or HOA printouts I had. Karen would just announce an emergency board meeting to retroactively change the rules, and then double down every morning with a new angle. You ever seen someone so obsessed, they photograph your fence at sunrise hoping it's grown overnight? Yeah, that happened. By December, her crusade was in full swing. You'd think the holidays would mellow her out. Sarah loved Christmas, always made the place feel warm. Lights, a wreath, nothing crazy. I'm stringing up LEDs on the porch when Karen marches up. Not even a hello, just those lights are excessive. I point at the neighbors. One house looked like a casino, another had reindeer that needed FAA clearance. But apparently my humble little string was society's downfall. Energy conservation guidelines, she says, waving a violation notice signed by her lawyer, husband Preston. But here's the kicker. There were no such guidelines in the actual rules. None. She was just making stuff up as she went. That weekend I did my homework. City had no holiday light restrictions unless you caused a blackout or started a fire. I also found out Preston wasn't even licensed to practice HOA law in our county. Meanwhile, Karen's house glowed like Times Square. I got tired of the nonsense, so I set up a group text, 12 neighbors, calling ourselves the Willowbrook Resistance. That Tuesday, we all turned on our lights at the same time, synchronized like it was the 4th of July. Suddenly, Karen couldn't play favorites or target one house. She'd have to find half the block, including herself. Her counterattack? Reporting me to city code enforcement for a fire hazard. Rick Gonzalez, old union buddy, shows up to inspect my setup. Everything perfect, code compliant, GFCIs everywhere. Rick pulls me aside. You're the fourth call this month from this street. Same complainant every time. That's when it hit me. Karen wasn't just a nuisance. She was abusing the system, filing false reports with city agencies, putting real work on hold for her petty vendettas. Every evening, more houses joined the light show. Karen's BMW zipped by, face thunderous, but she was running out of ways to punish everyone at once. The neighborhood finally felt like a neighborhood. Hot chocolate on porches, kids laughing, people looking out for each other. But I knew Karen wasn't done. January, she started the Leash Law Enforcement Committee. Membership, Karen and her nosy sidekick Martha. First target, Buddy, my 12-year-old golden retriever who's never so much as growled at a mailman. Aggressive off-leash behavior. The violation notice said, delivered by Karen herself in snow boots that probably cost more than my truck. The crime? Buddy retrieving the paper while I watched from the porch. She threatened a $300 fine, plus a $400 behavioral assessment. I just smiled, pulled out my phone, and started recording. Just for my records, I said. Karen nearly melted the snow with her glare. That weekend, I installed 4 security cameras. Nothing illegal, just protecting myself and documenting her trespassing, while her own cat, Snowball, roamed free across 3 lawns. 3 days later, Preston sent a cease and desist letter about my privacy-violating cameras. My union lawyer nearly laughed himself sick reading it. Turns out you can record your own property all day long. And then we learned the Whitfields had a direct financial stake. Every violation fee Karen collected, Preston's firm got a cut. All those fines were plugging holes in the HOA's empty accounts. By March, Karen hit us with spring beautification standards, a list of landscaping requirements that looked like they were written by a garden magazine editor on a bender, with 3 approved vendors, all charging 3 times market rates. I did the math. They were demanding $2,300 minimum per yard. And guess who owned the companies? Connections straight to Preston's brother-in-law. But I'd done my research. Native plant gardening was not only cheaper, it was city-rebated, drought-resistant, and way better for the environment. I started a co-op. 8 families bulk bought native plants, cutting everyone's costs by 40%. That's when Karen showed up at my door, Preston in tow, and a so-called landscape compliance coordinator. She rejected my native plant plan on the spot. Inconsistent neighborhood appearance, she claimed. But the city had laws promoting exactly that type of sustainable gardening, and Karen's requirements were, in fact, illegal. I sent an anonymous tip to City Water Conservation, copies of her fake standards and vendor lists. 3 days later, Karen got her own violation notice. Poetic justice. Here's the twist. My daughter Alexis, a nurse, got me thinking about financial transparency. Turns out, by law, residents can request HOA financial records. I sent the request, and Karen freaked out, claimed executive privilege, like she was running the Pentagon. My lawyer followed up, and the documents finally landed on my kitchen table. 47 grand to a landscaping company for work never done. 23 grand for a paint job at the clubhouse. Thousands in violation fees pocketed to keep the HOA solvent while the Whitfields siphoned funds for themselves. The liability insurance had lapsed months ago. If anyone got hurt, we were all on the hook. We called a backyard war council, 14 neighbors, all with stories of being targeted, all angry and ready. Dorothy, a retired accountant, volunteered to audit the finances. Linda, a paralegal, mapped out legal options. We stopped paying fines, pooled money for a legal defense fund, and filed a petition for emergency board elections. Meanwhile, Dorothy's audit revealed systematic fraud, fake contracts, inflated invoices, funds siphoned off by Karen and Preston. The city and state attorney general both got involved. But Karen wasn't going down quietly. She weaponized social media, painted me as a threat to community safety, filed false police reports claiming I'd threatened her, Even called my old union hall accusing me of running a neighborhood crime syndicate. It all backfired. Cameras, logs, witness statements, and a private investigator hired by Karen herself turned out to be an ex-cop who'd already tangled with her in 2 previous neighborhoods. By June, Karen went nuclear. Emergency HOA meeting to vote me out of the neighborhood. She rallied her legal team, printed up glossy pamphlets, and accused me of organizing an anti-HOA extremist group. The clubhouse looked like a courtroom, 47 neighbors packed in, a newspaper reporter ready to document every word. Karen made her grand speech, accusing me of everything but arson, but Linda stood up, calm, professional, and declared the meeting itself was illegal. Dorothy laid out the forensic audit, embezzlement, fraud, insurance lapsed, fake violations, the whole ugly mess. When Karen called 911, demanding police remove dangerous riders, everyone stared in disbelief. 3 patrol cars showed up, led by none other than my son, Detective Torres. Karen's face drained of color as Cameron asked her to specify what threats had occurred. Linda handed over documentation, 17 false reports, financial records, and a timeline of harassment. Cameron explained, "Ma'am, filing false police reports is a felony offense." The room held its breath. Karen melted down. Preston tried to intervene, but the law was not on their side this time. Cameron read her rights and cuffed her right there. Karen, the queen bee, let out in handcuffs as 47 neighbors watched, a reporter scribbling notes for the next day's front page. Her reign was over. Within weeks, the Whitfields faced felony charges for fraud and harassment, lost all management contracts, and their house hit the market. Dorothy was elected the new HOA president, violation fees refunded, the community finally breathing free again. We held a unity barbecue, 38 families laughing, sharing food, planting a community garden with Jerry's native seedlings. The new board started a scholarship fund in Sarah's name, and the place finally felt like home. Karen pled guilty, got jail time, restitution, and a 10-year ban from any HOA leadership. 3 other neighborhoods came forward with stories about the Whitfield scams. Our evidence helped them recover thousands. The real win? Kids playing freely, neighbors talking, laughter replacing surveillance, community growing where there had only been fear. Looking back, it wasn't about fences or lawns or Christmas lights. It was about people refusing to be bullied, documenting everything, and fighting back with truth and solidarity. You know what I mean? If you've got an HOA horror story, drop it in the comments. Don't let a petty tyrant with a clipboard make you think you're alone. Smash that like button, subscribe if you want more real stories of standing up to abuse, and stay tuned. Because next week, I'll tell you how my neighbor tried to steal my inheritance and lost his own house instead. Justice, like good coffee, is best served hot and strong, and sometimes with the whole neighborhood watching.